and Kenny Omega looking to get some retribution on John Moxley from Las Vegas.
He's taking foot stomps. Swan dive!
Welcome back, All Elite family, for episode 20 of the All Elite podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Kazir, and as always, I'm joined by my boy, Bitter Mark, AEW fan, Fyter Fest attendee, pro wrestling enthusiast, All Elite AJ. We're coming right off of Fyter Fest. The show just ended a couple hours ago. AJ just got back to the hotel.
Yep.
Tell us about your time at the show live, AJ, just briefly.
It was definitely, as far as the magnitude of the show, the biggest wrestling event I've ever been to. I mean, I've been to a Raw taping, I've been to indie shows, but I've never been to something where the crowd was this, like, electric and everything was on fire, everything was just going crazy. I was screaming my head off. It was really awesome. As a person who attended it, I can say the little issues that I had. The first one was probably... there was only one merch stand. There was one stall to get t-shirts, and so there was a huge line. Also, the doors opened at 6:30, and we got there at about 6:30, and we were wrapping around the building. I was texting you at the time, so you know that, but I was trying to send you pictures of just how long this huge line was, where we're all the way at the end of the Ocean Center. It was pretty crazy. I really didn't think they were going to get everybody in, but they started kicking ass to get everybody in as soon as they could. So I think everybody got in by the time 7:30 rolled around. I definitely was.
Right, and with AJ attending this show live, he's obviously recording at a different location, so if our audio quality is lacking in any way, or AJ happens to cut out in any way, just understand that it's because we're recording this under a little bit of different circumstances, I guess we would say.
But the other thing, just being there live, my dad pointed this out too. The Titantrons they had up, you would think that they would be like showing the action on them, but they only showed it for replays, and then sometimes they'd show it, like if people were out of the ring. But if they were in the ring, you were only seeing an AEW logo, and then infrequently they would just show you stuff on it. And I don't know why that was. I don't know why they weren't just showing it then like the whole time. But I don't know. Aside from that, I think the merch stand, the line, that was it. I think they really would have done well to just have, I don't know, another stall upstairs just with more, shirts, more options, because I actually missed Seema and Daniels and Jabali Nakazawa. I went to get the shirts during Jabali and Nakazawa, admittedly, but I was in that line so long that I missed Daniels and Seema too, so I have to go back and watch that one.
Yeah, in hindsight, you probably should have went to the merch stand right after that tag team match and tried to get back sooner, but I'm sure there were also a lot of people using that method as well, so who knows how well that would have worked. But overall, it sounds like you had an awesome time at the show live. Watching the show live at home, I had a great time as well. The commentary was all spectacular. You honestly missed out on that part, and maybe you should listen back when you get a chance this week, because Golden Boy stole the show on commentary. It's something that was spoken about a lot on Twitter, but I mean, maybe not stole the show, but he stood out as in comparison to, we obviously had Alex Marvez on the last show.
Like,
and
better than Marvez?
What was that?
Was he better than Marvez?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think he was better than Marvez by a long shot, and I think a lot of people sort of had that same sentiment and that feeling. So I don't think that they'll end up signing Golden Boy on to replace Marvez, but if they do, that's a great move. I think that Golden Boy just... He did a spectacular job commentating wrestling, and it seemed like it's something that he does all the time. And obviously not. He obviously is more in this esports world, but I think even that, like, he has the ability with his schedule probably to work within an AEW schedule. And even if they do something like the UFC where they sort of bring in different announcers for different shows or rotate guys in, I think that would be cool too, because he just felt really comfortable with Excalibur. And so that's something that I could definitely note from watching it live. And we'll just start off with the show from top to bottom. The first match on the pre-show, we had the Best Friends versus Private Party versus SGU.
Yes.
And the Best Friends ended up picking up the victory here.
This is why I'm very happy.
What was this match like live?
Hindsight, you're right. I should have gone to the tag match, but then I also would have missed this amazing tag match. The crowd was on fire for this. It was such a good opener as far as getting the crowd, like, out of their seats. Private Party got a way bigger. The crowd really got behind Private Party, like near the middle and towards the end of the match, just because of how crazy their shit was. And of course, I was rooting for the Best Friends. There was this little girl also screaming her head off for the SCU, or for SCU, and that was really funny to me. I mean, it was just cute. But anyways, I don't know. It was crazy. A Private Party killed it. That's what I'll say. But I was rooting for Best Friends. Best Friends went over. I popped like a motherfucker. It's all kind of a blur right now. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, the finish of this match came when the Best Friends took advantage of Isaiah Cassidy. They hit the strong zero on him for the 1-2-3, and I thought this match was just an absolutely great opening pre-show match. It had nonstop action. There were so many highlight moments that I was able to clip and get to GIFs for Twitter, so that was great. And this match was just awesome, and then at the end of it, they finished it with a little bit of storyline and storytelling.
Yeah, the Dark Order.
With, the Dark Order, they appear on the big screen and they challenge the Best Friends, so I wonder if that's the next matchup. They had mentioned on commentary that the winner of this match would be competing at All Out, so I was thinking maybe we'll see the Best Friends versus the Dark Order at All Out.
That's a good thing to know. The crowd was not vibing with the Dark Order, from what I could tell. I thought it was cool. I thought the Evil Unos were cool. I mean, lights off, ooh, lights back on, it's a Dark Order. And like half the crowd knows what's going on, and the other is like, all right. And then when they were just gone, I think it just kind of fizzled out. I thought it was cool, and I'm glad we got that bit of story, especially going into the tag team tournament. And I think that's going to pay up for anybody who was, I don't know, not feeling it. I feel like it's going to pay off, so I would just hang in there.
Yeah, it's another one of those wait-and-see things here with AEW, but I think, just like you said, it'll absolutely pay off. And basically, the last thing I have to note about that is it just feels like these segments with the Dark Order are a little bit awkward. Like, they don't have them timed out specifically, and it would help almost to do, some pre-production with that and maybe test it out once or twice before the show, because it does feel really awkward and, it drags on weird, and they don't necessarily have everything timed out perfect. But other than that, it was all right. Yeah. The next segment we get, it was just a little bit more of the mocking Fyter Fest. I don't know if you even saw this live, but we had the Young Bucks, and they're complaining about everything. Oh, yeah, and then they come off and pull everybody, the models from the stage, and just continue that gimmick. So that was funny.
That was fun. I was laughing when they brought out the mannequins. That was cool.
The utilization of the mannequins and stuff, it was good comedy. So
I actually really like those segments. I heard some people didn't when I came home and I looked into the show, and I don't know why. I thought it was fun, and everybody in the crowd was laughing, so I don't know. I thought it was fun, and it didn't drag on really long. It wasn't that long, especially. It was still the pre-show, right?
Yeah, it was short, sweet, and to the point. And then the next match we got on the pre-show, we had Allie versus Leva Bates. And Allie ended up picking up the win here, which I thought was nice. I don't think we need Leva Bates and the Librarian to
This is when I should have gotten the t-shirt.
Pinfall.
This is the match.
But Allie, that's what I was trying to say, was you should have went during this match. Yep. But Allie ends up hitting a super kick.
It wasn't the best. It wasn't a terrible match or anything. But yeah, that didn't land great. But also, it was just really awkward, them coming out and doing this I don't think that was going over well with the crowd. I don't think they were playing along with Peter Avalon very much. I don't know what that finish was supposed to mean. I guess we'll learn, but more. I know he threw the book at him. It was really hard to see from where I was, but I could tell he threw the book at her, and then miscommunication. But after the match, Leva Bates wasn't angry or anything. She was just getting help to the back by Peter Avalon. I don't know. I'm sure it's gonna go somewhere. I'm sure we'll get something on Being the Elite or whatever. But as of right now, I definitely wish I had I known Nakazawa and Bailey was gonna follow this, I definitely would have went to get the shirts. But live and learn.
Yeah, overall it wasn't a great match, but it wasn't a bad match. It leaves you a little bit worried about the Allie versus Brandy match coming up, but it should be all right. And then following that match, we get Alex Jabali versus Michael Nakazawa in a hardcore match. Luckily, Michael Nakazawa ended up picking up the victory in this match. So
I have no idea what happened. I mean, I
don't have a lot to say about this match, really.
I have to go and watch it.
Oh, yeah, I guess you didn't even see it.
Yeah, I saw parts of it from the stand.
I watched it, and it was okay, but
I was in the line, and the doors were open in such a way where I could see the ring, but I could half see it. So I don't know. I heard the crowd popping a lot, so maybe they were into it. I guess they were into it.
Yeah, overall, the Michael Nakazawa-Alex Jabali match definitely left a little bit to be desired for me personally. It was a good comedy, hardcore match overall. There was a spot where Jabali tosses Michael Nakazawa into the pool. That was a funny segment. They also involved some Legos, and Nakazawa gets tossed onto some Legos. The match was all right. No, it wasn't. It was nothing I cared for, and I was glad that it was just short and sweet and to the point. The next match we get is the opening match. It's CIMA versus Christopher Daniels. CIMA ends up picking up the victory here. It was nothing spectacular, but it was an interesting enough match that it kept me entertained throughout all of it, and it gave the crowd a good taste of what CIMA has to bring to the table, which is really important for AEW here.
I'm really excited to go back and watch this one. I was really excited to see it. I mean, I'm still going to see CIMA and Kenny Omega in Jacksonville, so that's going to be cool. But nonetheless, I really did want to see this match, and so I'm excited to go back and watch it. I expect it was great, but I don't know. Like you said, I'm sure we're gonna. It's a good baseline because if you don't know who CIMA is, Daniels is such a good opponent for him.
Yeah, and it was just, like I said, it was just nothing spectacular, and it was good, not great, is just all I could say about it. It was a fine match. CIMA picked up the victory. He has to look strong going into his match with Kenny Omega, so that makes sense. Overall, it was a good match. Good little opener for the show, and I noted that Christopher Daniels is AEW's opening ace. He seems to be the guy that they go to open up the show, and I don't think that's a bad choice, but I think it might be time to freshen it up.
Yeah, no, you're right. I actually didn't really think about that, but you're actually really spot on about that. Next match was really good.
Yes, the next match we have Rio versus Nyla Rose versus Yuka Sakazaki. Rio ends up picking up the victory here over Nyla Rose with a surprise pinfall roll-up attempt. I was excited throughout this whole match. Yeah. It was really entertaining throughout the whole thing. Nyla Rose looked spectacular, which is something that we needed to see. Mm-hmm. And Rio and Yuka Sakazaki really paid off as well.
Yeah, I was top to bottom great. I was losing my shit the whole time. I think I was screaming my head off. I was cheering for Yuka Sakazaki a lot, and there were other people who were just, I don't know, everybody was into it, and even though I think most people really didn't know who anybody was except, I guess, Nyla Rose, and even then, they didn't really know her, but everybody got really into that match, and I think we were talking a lot about how this would be a good way to introduce people into the Joshi style of wrestling, and I think that did that perfectly. And the end, where Rio kind of heel turned on Yuka, I was really surprised by that, and I'm really hoping that we get a one-on-one.
Absolutely. Nyla Rose sort of looked like an afterthought in that four-way match that we saw on the first show, but on this show, Nyla Rose stood out as a prime part, and she played her part well, and the two Joshi women really fit that well, and that was a match that really stood out. They'll be able to hang their hat on this triple threat women's match, which I think was what they were hoping to do with the last Fatal 4-Way, but it paid off here. And then speaking of Fatal 4-Ways, we got the Hangman Page versus MJF versus Jimmy Havoc match. Hangman Page ends up coming off with the victory, which is necessary going into his match with Chris Jericho in a couple months. I don't know if you heard, but the commentary noted they had Kip Sabian come out because Kip Sabian was going to face the winner of this match at Fight for the Fallen. So coming off of this match, we're going to get Hangman versus Kip. What did you think of seeing this match live? And unfortunately, for anyone who was dying to hear AJ's point of view on this match from a live perspective, this was the only matchup that, for whatever reason, our recording software decided to drop AJ's audio for. I do know that AJ mentioned that he really enjoyed this match, and he thought that MJF and Adam Page were going to have a long-lasting feud coming off of this match down the line. So we'll jump right into that part and then get into the next match, because obviously, as I said, we have no audio for AJ. So sorry about that. Yeah, one thing commentary was sure to note, and I believe Jim Ross was noting it really heavily, was Adam Page and MJF is going to be a big feud down AEW's history. They were really putting this over as maybe AEW's foundational feud of the two rising stars that are going to, the cream rises to the top, and these two will be in that picture for a long time to come, and they'll have a lot of feuds going. So I think it's cool to see this type of slow burn build between him and MJF, and Jimmy Havoc's part in this match. I think he played his part all right, but it's tough when you're Havoc. You can't really do all of the hardcore stuff that you're known for doing in AEW all the time, because that doesn't really fit their aesthetic. So you kind of have to change up your style. And he didn't get a ton of time. He did get to go for the Acid Rainmaker, and he got to do a couple other spots. But I think overall, Jungle Boy, MJF, and Hangman stood out a little bit more than he did, especially being the guy to take the pin. But overall, I thought this was a fantastic four-way match, and every guy looked all right. And following that great fatal four-way match, we got Cody Rhodes versus Darby Allin in a match that ended in a time limit draw at 20 minutes. This match was absolutely incredible. I think this is the second time that Cody Rhodes has stolen the show for AEW, which is crazy when you think about the guys that are on their roster. But I think this match really tore the house down. I think Darby really got an opportunity to showcase himself. My only gripe with the match was just the post-match angle I didn't care for, because it really took away all of the shine that Darby ended up to create for himself in this match. I think Darby did so many crazy spots that are easily going to be forgot about because of what happened after this match, and that's a little unfortunate.
I am going to say, because I love Shawn Spears, I popped really hard when he came out and hit Cody with the chair, but I think you're right. And I got that same feeling with Janela, which we'll talk about soon. But that said, you're right. It was a great match. I didn't expect it to be that great of a match. I expected it to be good, but Cody, you're right, has absolutely been stealing the show consistently, putting on matches that have a lot of emotional depth and makes you really get immersed into it. People were screaming their heads off for Darby. They were going crazy for him. Like, even people who weren't cheering for Darby initially just came around because they wanted to see Darby win. Everybody was going 5 more minutes. I really was expecting them to do that, just do 5 more minutes, but oh my, that's what caught me off guard. I should have known that they weren't going to, but oh, I really did like that. I know it's just because I'm a mark, but I'm gonna just openly admit it. I love Shawn Spears. I love the chair shot. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It goes two different ways. You can look at it from the perspective of, well, you don't want to use the 5 minutes thing right away real early, because then it becomes repetitive to use it all the time. But after that match, you feel like it was necessary. And I feel like you're gonna feel like that a lot with time limit draws in general. So it's tough, man. You only got 20 minutes, and they tore it up, and Darby really got a chance to make himself into a star and did some crazy stuff, and I'm excited to see where he goes next and who they pair him up with next. I think no matter what happens next for Darby, it's going to be something interesting, but he sort of got pushed to the wayside with the post-match with Cody getting hit in the head by Shawn Spears, and that was wild.
It was. I mean, especially, I guess, for me, because I'm a mark for Shawn Spears, and I know he's old, and I know a lot of people don't like that he's here, but what am I going to do? I've liked him for so long. I can't just pretend I don't, and I know I'm probably, a little dumb for liking him so much, but, well, it's happening, so I'm going to be happy about it.
Well, and this is the feud that I called from the beginning with Shawn Spears, man. I think I almost called it this way straight up, so I'm stoked about it. I just think the level of ferocity that he used to hit him with that chair and bust him open that bad, and they had the commentary. Maybe it was all work, man, but just that heavy chair shot to the head, unprotected and everything. It was difficult to take in, and it was like, man, and that's what sort of took over wrestling Twitter. It wasn't even so much like, oh man, Shawn Spears did that. Like, that would have been fine, but it wasn't even that took over and took Darby's spotlight. It was more so the effect of him hitting him with such a heavy chair shot.
It was a heavy chair shot.
But it was a great match, followed up with a decent storyline build, and the part that I loved was MJF was right there by his side to help Cody out and be his buddy, and they continued up that relationship and that friendship, man, because I love it. We had MJF saying "fuck you, Shawn Spears" weeks ago, and it felt like MJF was being the bad guy, but now it turns around and Shawn Spears is the bad guy, and Spears is going to have a good argument. He's going to come out talking about how you should have chose me for your tag team partner, instead you chose your old washed up brother, and this, that, and the third. So I appreciate it, and I like where they're going with it. I just hope Cody's able to compete in a couple of weeks, because that was a heavy chair shot. I don't know if it
was on TV, but after MJF came out, and then like the Young Bucks, the Elite, and a bunch of referees came out, I forget who he pushed away. I think it was like somebody, but he pushed away one of the members of the Elite and took their place to be next to Cody real close. I don't know if that was on camera or not, but it made me laugh.
Yeah, that's great. MJF's relationship with him is just so perfect. So, and going into this match, I was honestly surprised. I was like, damn, we don't have any other matches on this card. Like, I knew what the other 2 matches coming up were, and the way they build it was that this next match, the Kenny Omega and Young Bucks versus Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid, was the official main event of the show. And then the next match, and you obviously, I don't know if they explained that to you before or if they just dropped it on you at the end of the show, but it was a little bit confusing, but overall, this match was really, really great, the 6-man match. I had nothing to complain about. There was a lot of gifable moments, you could say, just a lot of highlights and a lot of crazy spots. How was it watching this live and seeing Omega live?
If I were to rank, like, the top 3, I would rank Joey Janela and Jon Moxley, this tag match, and then Cody and Darby Allin. So it was booked perfectly as far as me being in the crowd. But that might be because I was in the crowd, so I definitely want to watch it back to really see what I think about that. But this was so good. I was losing my head. Everything was insane. I could barely follow it, and I loved it. The dude next to me was screaming his head off. I have videos of me just literally losing my shit, so those will be on Twitter, I'm sure. But for right now, just hang tight. But I love this match. I don't have a bad thing to say about it. I thought it was perfect. I think there was, like, I don't know, maybe one mistake, and I can't even remember what it is at this point. It felt so fluid, and just like these guys were born to wrestle each other. So I don't know, that I can't say enough how awesome this was.
Yeah, the entire match was awesome. I thought at the beginning they did a good job of making Laredo Kid look really good and sort of stand out on his own, and then just continued to progress the match and have so many sweet moments and awesome moments for the fans. And like you said, it's like these 6 guys were meant to wrestle each other because they put on such a spectacular match. And just the pacing of the card, the same way you said, I appreciated it. Going into the last 3 matches, I was disappointed that there was only 3 matches left, but it was nice. Like, the best 3 matches were the last 3 matches, and it built to that perfectly. So, and then our final match of the night was Joey Janela versus Jon Moxley in an unsanctioned match. And as I previously mentioned, they sort of talked to the crowd at one point saying that the show was over, and I think people were pissed for a second before realizing what they were doing, and that they were turning the lights out, turning them back on, and it was unsanctioned.
It was weird. I didn't. They should have probably done that differently, especially for the live audience. I mean, it was just like a few seconds of confusion, but there was audible boos and being like, what? No way. Like, everybody knew Mox and Janela was happening, so I feel like anybody doing that was probably just, playing a part. Maybe not, though. It was weird. I feel like they should have just said this match was a hardcore match, but whatever. Lights off, lights on, sure.
Yeah, I agree with you, but to a point I almost appreciated it because while Joey Janela lost, they said because it's an unsanctioned match, it doesn't go against his record, it doesn't matter in the AEW history books, so screw it. A loss to Jon Moxley in a dope-ass match where they had everything from thumbtacks to barbed wire. It was like I said in the last show, they could have everything from thumbtacks to barbed wire to glass. They just didn't have glass, but man, they went all out.
They did. No pun intended. They really did. My dad, who was not used to hardcore death matches or anything of the like, was freaking out, especially with that ladder spot. Oh my god, that was a big drop. And Joey Janela took 2 of those table bumps on the side of the ring, and they were both nasty. And he ripped off his boots at the thumbtacks. There's so much. I'm gonna have a lot of fun rewatching this because I'm sure. This is the one where they showed us the match on the Titantron the most because there was so much outside of the ring stuff going on. But aside from that, I'm really excited to just watch it again because I can't believe if those spots looked as cool to me live, I can't imagine how much cooler they're going to be with the camera angles and just what gifs I'm going to see and be like, oh, I didn't even notice they did that. The barbed wire board, when they drove him through the table. Oh my god, I know I'm rambling, but I don't know how to not ramble because this is all really fresh. Also, my voice is gone. But I don't know, I was screaming my head off. I was screaming, bad boy. And I tried to say that just now, but I couldn't, so it sounds terrible. But I was doing that for a good, I don't know, the whole match until other people started doing it too. And so I was being really obnoxious, but I didn't care because I just wanted Joey to win real bad. And then after the match with Kenny coming out, oh my god, I should have expected that, but I didn't at all. And then he came out again.
Yeah, I had a bit of a feeling that could happen, but I was like, they're not going to do it 2 shows in a row, so I wasn't anticipating it when it did happen, that's for sure, and I thought that was a really awesome way to close out the show. But the match itself, I was watching it with Amanda, my girlfriend, and as we were watching the show, it was just interesting, her freaking out over this match. This was actually the only match she tuned in for, but just she was losing her shit over all the thumbtack spots and throwing Janela in without his boots on and everything. And yeah, Mox's back was all cut up from the barbed wire and stuff. So both guys put it all on the line and really gave their all for this match. And then after the match, we obviously had Kenny Omega run down and hit Moxley with a V-trigger from fucking hell, because it was just, he had such a running start to hit it, and it was wild. And then Kenny Omega continues his assault on Jon Moxley to finish out the show, and it was just a great finish to a great show. I think overall AEW absolutely produced a fantastic show for everybody, and Fyter Fest was a great build off of the last show as we continue on to our road to All Out as the next big event.
I'm still dumbfounded that they put this out for free. They didn't have to, and I think it's a great move, because I know we've been saying it for like the past 3 podcasts, but this is such a smart move to put this out for free, to get people acclimated to what AEW is going to be like on a show level, like on what you're going to be watching. And it's just a good way, because what you're doing by making it free is saying, this is the example that we want to set, that this is the kind of stuff that we're going to show you. And I think they did that perfectly. I think the show went so well. I'm sure there were bumps in production that I'll notice later, like you said, the shove, or there was some like the Leva Bates one I wasn't huge on, but aside from that, really, it was so good, and it was free, and like, I don't know, if you're in the UK, it was $10, a big deal, and you could get the 10 Fyter Fest credits if you didn't have $10, not Fyter Fest, Fight TV, but my god, I was so excited. Thank you again for the tickets, by the way, and I'm still stoked. Like, I don't think I'm going to be able to sleep tonight because I'm really wired, and I would be a lot louder right now, but my voice is gone.
Yeah, dude, overall it was a great show, and like you mentioned, the Leva Bates and the Alex Bailey matches might have left something to be desired for me, but at the end of the day, the pacing of the show, those matches being so early, it's not a bad thing.
I really walked away from this show being like, wow, wrestling is back. Like, I'm really excited to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, man, wrestling's cool again is the easiest way to put it. So I have no problem with explaining to people what I'm doing, what I've got going on with my Saturday night and these cool shows. And that's the cool part about it being free on BR Live, is that everyone that I've talked to, I'm like, yeah, you could check it out, man, because it's free. And I don't really worry about it being a crazy thing, because I don't think there's anything that crazy on AEW that is cringeworthy to where I don't want other people to check it out. And that's where the word of mouth of AEW is going to start building as well. And that product being available for free for the next month, I think they'll continue to generate views and have people tune in and watch the show and see what they're missing out on with AEW, and it will continue to build. And so it's exciting to be a part of this, and every month everything just seems to get better. So that's awesome, man. And honestly, that wraps everything up for this episode of our post Fyter Fest show. AJ, go ahead and post your social medias.
You can follow me on Instagram at AJTheFitzy and on Twitter at BigMatchAJ. I'm going to be posting a lot of stuff on from the show, pictures and other stuff, not only on those on those accounts, but also on the All Elite podcast. And we're probably going to put some of them on the website, I imagine. So alleliteeverything.com too, but you're about to plug all that.
Yeah, I was just about to start talking about how anybody who has signed up for the All Elite Fantasy game, I will have the numbers and scores updated by Monday night, and then I'll have that all posted on the website with an updated number and the standings of how everybody did coming off of the first show, and see how everything is going into Fight for the Fallen. And that'll be an exciting thing to follow with everyone who did sign up and become a part of that. If you missed out on the opportunity, don't worry. Following All Out, we'll get another round of AEW Fantasy going and get some more people involved who who hadn't heard about it yet. But up until then, if you're interested in that, check out the website, All Elite Everything, for that. We're also probably going to start getting a couple of columns going on that website and things like that. And if you're interested in joining us in that endeavor and posting columns on All Elite Everything and just giving your opinion on wrestling, and you have a little bit of a background on writing, then we have no problem in bringing people on board. So hit us up in the DMs at the All Elite Podcast on Twitter, and we'll get something rolling as we try to build another community of just All Elite Wrestling and things to talk about there. So that wraps things up for us this week, and we'll see you guys next week. See ya.
Bye.